Germany asked for their gold back. America said it would take 7 years. When it finally arrived, the serial numbers didn't match. That should terrify you. Right now, 1,400 metric tons of gold have quietly left American vaults in just 3 years. That is more than the previous 30 years combined. Germany took theirs. The Netherlands took theirs. Austria, Hungary, Poland, Turkey. They all took their gold home. And nobody is talking about it. The mainstream story is simple. Central banks move reserves around all the time. It is routine. It is administrative. It is boring. But here is what the mainstream story does not tell you. The nations pulling their gold out of New York are doing it faster than at any point since World War II. The question nobody wants to answer is simple. What do they know that we do not? This is not a video about conspiracy theories. This is not about doomsday preppers or gold bugs screaming about the end of the dollar. This is about a pattern that will change how you think about your savings, your retirement, and the money in your pocket. When the institutions that create money start hoarding something that is not money, that is not a signal. That is an alarm, and right now, that alarm is deafening if you know where to listen. To understand what is happening, you need to know the difference between two things most people think are the same. They are not. On one side you have paper gold, futures contracts, ETFs, derivatives, numbers on a screen that represent a claim on gold. On the other side you have physical gold, actual metal sitting in an actual vault with an actual weight you can measure. The price you see on the news is the paper price. It comes from futures contracts that trade in insane volumes. Every single day, about $250 billion worth of paper gold changes hands on the COMEX exchange alone. But here is the disturbing part. The registered inventory of the COMEX is the actual physical gold available for delivery against all those paper contracts. In January 2021, there were about 14 million ounces in the warehouses. Today there are less than 2.5 million. Do the math. For every single ounce of physical gold that actually exists and is available for delivery, there are over 100 paper claims. If everyone who owns paper gold decided on the same day to take delivery, 111 of them would get nothing. Central banks understand this better than anyone. That is why they started doing something unusual in 2012. Germany announced they wanted to bring home 674 metric tons of gold stored at the New York Fed. The Fed told them it would take 7 years to return their own property. Think about that. Germany did not ask for anything unusual. They asked for their gold that was supposedly sitting in an allocated vault with their name on it. The Fed said give us 7 years. The official explanation was logistical challenges. But here is what a 2019 Bundesbank audit revealed. When the gold finally arrived in Frankfurt, the bar serial numbers did not match. The bars Germany received were not the same bars Germany deposited. The Bundesbank said this was normal. Gold is fungible. Bars get remelted and renumbered. But if the Fed had Germany's gold sitting in a designated vault, why did they need 7 years to find different gold to give back? Germany was just the beginning. In 2014, the Netherlands quietly repatriated 122 tons from New York. In 2015, Austria began withdrawal. In 2017, Hungary withdrew their entire reserve from London. In 2018, Poland brought home 100 tons. In 2019, Turkey recalled all US-held reserves. Then comes the statistic nobody wants to discuss. In 2022, central banks purchased more gold than in any year since 1967. That was the year before the London gold pool collapsed. The year before the Bretton Woods system began its death spiral. The last time central banks were this hungry for physical gold, the entire global monetary system was about to implode. Here is the detail that should keep you up at night. The buyers are almost exclusively nations not aligned with the United States. China.Russia, India.Turkey, the Gulf states. The nations aligned with the US are holding steady, not selling but not buying either. They are waiting. The question is waiting for what? In February of this year, the World Gold Council surveyed 57 central bank reserve managers. 24% said they intended to increase gold holdings in the next 12 months. But here is the line that matters. Rising concerns over the precedent set by sovereign asset seizures. Translation: when the West froze $300 billion of Russia's reserves in 2022, every central bank on earth got the same message. Your reserves held in our banking system are only yours as long as we allow them to be yours. That message changed everything. To understand why this matters, we need to go back to July 1944. A hotel in New Hampshire, the Mount Washington Hotel. World War II was still raging, but the Allied powers gathered to design the economic architecture of the post-war world. The agreement was elegant in its simplicity. The US dollar would be pegged to gold at $35 per ounce. Every other currency would be pegged to the dollar. Any foreign central bank could walk into the US Treasury and exchange dollars for physical gold at that fixed rate. The dollar was not just currency. It was a claim on gold, a warehouse receipt, a promise. For 25 years it worked. But there was a problem. The United States was printing dollars to fund the Vietnam War, the Great Society programs, and the space race. More dollars chasing the same amount of gold. By 1971, foreign central banks figured out the math did not work. There were far more dollars in circulation than gold in Fort Knox. France was aggressive about it. Charles de Gaulle famously sent a warship to New York to collect French gold from the Fed. He understood what was coming. On August 15, 1971, President Nixon closed the gold window permanently. From that moment on, the dollar was backed by nothing but faith. Faith in the US government, faith in the US military, faith in the US economy. The price of gold freed from its $35 peg began its ascent. It took 3 years to triple, 10 years to hit $800, 50 years to reach where we are today. But here is what most people miss about the Nixon shock. The dollar did not collapse after 1971 because America offered the world a new deal. You want to buy oil, you pay in dollars. You want US military protection, you hold dollars in your reserves. You want access to the global financial system, you play by dollar rules. This was the petrodollar system. For 50 years it was the invisible architecture holding the global economy together. But systems do not last forever. The cracks are now impossible to ignore. In March 2023, Saudi Arabia announced they were open to selling oil in currencies other than the dollar. The nation whose petrodollar agreement underpinned the global reserve currency for 50 years said they are open to alternatives. 3 months later, they joined BRICS. This was not a diplomatic photo op. This was a tectonic shift. Now let us talk about what the major players are actually doing. Not saying doing. Russia was locked out of the dollar system after 2022. Hundreds of billions in reserves frozen. Their response was to accelerate gold purchases. Not paper, physical metal. Today, Russia's official gold reserves stand at over 2,300 metric tons, making them the 5th largest holder on Earth. Russia is not storing that gold in New York or London. It is in Moscow, on Russian soil. Under Russian control, China officially reports gold reserves of around 2,200 metric tons. That number has not changed significantly in years. But China imports more gold in a single year than most countries hold in their entire reserves. Yet their official number barely moves. Where is it going? The People's Bank of China releases reserve data only when it chooses. Sometimes they go silent for 5 years, then suddenly announce they added 500 tons. Analysts estimate China's actual gold holdings could be anywhere from 4,000 to 3,000 metric tons. If the upper estimates are correct, China may already hold more gold than the United States. And they have never sold a single ounce. The United States officially holds 8133 metric tons of gold, the largest reserve in the world. There is just one problem. The last full independent audit of Fort Knox was in 1953. In 2017, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin visited Fort Knox, the first Treasury Secretary to do so in nearly 70 years. His verdict was a single tweet. Glad gold is safe, that is it. That is the audit. Every attempt to conduct a comprehensive, transparent audit has been blocked, delayed, or classified. The official answer is security concerns. The uncomfortable question is whether the gold is still there, or whether it has been leased, hypothecated, or sold into the paper market to suppress prices. We simply do not know. The government seems determined to keep it that way. This brings us to what I call the gold trap. For decades, the United States encouraged foreign central banks to store gold reserves at the New York Fed. The pitch was simple: it is safer. It is more liquid. You can trade it faster if it is already in New York. But here is what that arrangement actually enabled. Leasing hypothecation, rehypothecation. Your gold bar sitting in a vault could be leased to a bullion bank. That bank could use it as collateral for paper contracts. Those contracts could be sold multiple times over. The physical bar never moved, but the claims on that bar multiplied exponentially. As long as nobody asked for their gold back, the system worked perfectly. Then Germany asked for their gold back. The system hiccuped. It took 7 years. The gold that arrived was not even the same gold. Now, one by one, nations are looking at the game board and asking a dangerous question. If we ask for our gold tomorrow, will it be there? If enough nations ask that question at the same time, the paper market collapses. So when does this break? Let me walk you through the timeline. Not as prediction, but as probability. Phase 1 is the acceleration of repatriation. We are already in this phase. Central banks are bringing gold home faster than at any point since Bretton Woods collapsed. The New York Fed's custodial gold holdings dropped from over 6,000 metric tons in 2012 to under 5,000 tons today and falling. Every bar that leaves New York is a bar that can no longer be leased, hypothecated, or used to suppress paper prices. Phase 2 is the premium divergence. At some point, the price for physical gold will permanently diverge from the paper price. We may already be there. Walk into a coin dealer today and try to buy gold at the spot price. You cannot. Premiums of 5, 8, even 12% over spot are now standard. In a crisis, those premiums explode. During the COVID panic in March 2020, silver premiums briefly hit 100% over spot. The paper price said $12. The physical price was $24 if you could find it at all. Phase 3 is the delivery failure. This is the event horizon, a delivery failure on the COMEX where a contract holder demands physical metal and is told there is none available would be a systemic event. We have seen this before. In 1980, when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market, the COMEX changed the rules overnight. They halted buying, liquidation only. The Hunts were crushed, silver collapsed. But the system survived because there was still physical metal in the vault. What happens when there is not? When physical supply hits zero, the price does not simply go up. The market closes. You will not be able to buy at any price. The paper claims become worthless overnight. Everyone who thought they owned gold through an ETF, a futures contract, or a pool-allocated account discovers they own nothing but a counterparty promise. Phase 4 is the revaluation. Throughout history, when a monetary system breaks, gold does not just rise. It gets revalued by decree. In 1934, Roosevelt confiscated gold from American citizens at $20.67 per ounce, then immediately revalued it to $35, a 70% overnight gain for the government. Those who held gold illegally or held it overseas became wealthy. Those who followed the rules were robbed. When the paper market fails, central banks will be forced to mark gold to a real market clearing price. The math is staggering. The US holds 8,133 tons of gold if it is still there. At current prices, that is worth roughly $630 billion. US federal debt is $34 trillion. To back even 50% of that debt with gold would require a revaluation to approximately $27,000 per ounce. To achieve full backing would require over $5,000 per ounce. These are not fantasy numbers. These are the mathematics of a world where paper promises meet physical reality. What does this mean for you? The window to act is closing. Every ounce of physical gold that moves from Western vaults to Eastern vaults, from central bank custody to sovereign domestic storage, from paper claims to physical possession, is an ounce you cannot buy. When the institutional players have positioned themselves, when the BRICS nations have enough gold to launch an alternative reserve currency, the door will close. If you are on the wrong side of that door, you will wish you had paid attention to the boring stories. Let me summarize what we covered and tell you what I think it means. Central banks are repatriating gold at the fastest rate in 50 years. The nations doing most of the buying are specifically those not aligned with the dollar system. The paper gold market is leveraged over 100 to 1 against physical supply. US gold reserves have not been independently audited in 70 years. The precedent of sovereign asset seizure has accelerated every de-dollarization trend already in motion. The question I opened with was simple. What do they know that we do not? Here is my answer. They know that in a world of infinite paper, sovereignty belongs to those who hold the physical.